WAVE 91.7 FM. Now, this morning on the program, let's take a look at something very important: justice and the time frame of delivering the same. Because as far back as 2022, the attack that was carried out on the St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, left a great scar and mark on many families, with about 40 lives that were lost to that attack. And ever since then, several steps were taken by the state government, by the security arm setup, talking about a Motekun, to arrest individuals who they perceive to be suspect in that particular attack. And not until yesterday, when a judgment was delivered, where the convicts, Idris Abdulmalik or Omiazu, 25, Qasim Idris, 20, Jamilu Abdulmalik, and Abdul Halim Idris were found guilty of multiple terrorism-related offenses. And the court also held that they were members of a terrorist group identified as Al-Shabaab, which allegedly operated in part of Kogi and Ondo State under the coordination of a leader known as Adoba. Now, a federal high court in Abuja has actually sentenced the four men to death by hanging for their roles in the deadly 2022 attack on the church. Some have said that the judgment is coming a little bit late, but they are also appreciative of the fact that finally justice may seem to have been done. Now, do not forget that we are yet to actually say goodbye to some of the troubles related to terrorism situation in the country, and the fact that it's still biting. In fact, one of those cases, for a reminder, is the situation in Borno and Oyo states, with a lot of stories flying left, right, and center. Now, on the floor of the right chambers as well, a very heated debate has actually happened with respect to insecurity situation in the country. Yesterday, I read things from Senator Adams Oshomole, and even the former Senate President Ahmed Lawan has said that if care is not taken, it appears that the bandits or Boko Haram is winning the war. I don't know how else that would be, but he said it looks as if they are advancing and executing their plans without the country catching up at the same time. Let's take a listen to him.
Boko Haram gradually is achieving its targets. This thing started by way of history from the northeast. Now it's in the southwest. And the modus operandi are the same. Abduct school children and their teachers. There's no education. And more problematic elements growing up to be illiterates, renegades, and of course, very good tool for recruitments.
And this is where we are as a people. But first, let's take a look at the judgment delivered by Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court in Abuja. How would you actually appraise this particular judgment, looking at the time frame 2022 and this is 2026?
Okay, so we'll first start by saying that the wheels of justice grind slowly but surely, right? Yes, it's agreed that the Nigerian legal system, not just in Nigeria, but since we're talking about Nigeria, the Nigerian legal system has got its own ups and downs, lags. I mean, this was not the only case before the Venerable Justice, in this matter. But procedure needed to be followed strictly.
Absolutely.
Now, perhaps the longest of times in the entire process had to be between August 11, 2022, when they were first arraigned, and then yesterday when sentencing was done. Don't also forget that at some point the judgment was stayed, right? That was sometime last week, just before we had the final judgment as at yesterday. So we had the legal trial and evidentiary phase run from 2022 to early 2026. Now this had to do with presenting forensic evidence, tracking records, you name it, just to make sure that it was proven beyond reasonable doubt that these men were involved in the offenses that they were accused of. And again, I'm not trying to make an excuse here, but you see that thing about people wanting this thing to happen real fast, perhaps to serve as a deterrent to others. That is where you might begin to deviate a bit from just waiting for justice to go slowly.
And that is
surely.
important.
Well, important, yes, but the importance is two-way, and I'll try to give us those two very quickly. Importance number one will be the importance of having it go real fast so that it gets to stop others who wants to get involved in such from continuing or proceeding with their plans. That is one. The other importance would be the importance of having it go slow.
Why is that?
Beautiful. The need for you to properly carry out all requirements of the law in making sure that those you are sentencing and those standing accused are actually the ones who carried out the act.
But Excel, we've also seen situations in our dear country where, again, like I would mention, the people were actually caught with very strong evidence and the links were established from the get-go. Yet, some of these people were pardoned and let off the hook. Now, if we're to talk about anything that should have served as a strong test case in our country, this should have been.
I would agree to the extent that the lag was, to the ordinary man on the street, unnecessarily too much, right? However, you are aware that a boy could be caught. I saw something you shared. A young boy who went to play football and was arrested. I think it was 14 or so then.
Gospel women.
And he stayed behind bars for how many years and became a man and lost his mind in the process. And his parents had died of heart attack. There was no file to say this is the matter, or this is the case on which this young man is being held. Now, that aside, you go on to look at the fact that this thing about trying to be sure that people are guilty, even when you say you found evidence on them, can be very tricky.
How?
That's why you have the courts.
No, that's why you have the courts.
Are you
but
aware,
let's also understand
are you aware that a confessional statement can be made under duress?
A confessional statement can be made under duress, but the context is also different.
Are you also aware?
Excel, I'm not trying to.
No, I am not even trying to play the devil's advocate.
Apart from the devil's advocate,
I'm trying to help you see that there are sides to this. Before we jump in to say, oh, this has taken too long, can we look at the realities of the law? I have been in a matter that lasted. This is something that should perhaps have finished in give or take 6 months. It took me 2 years to get judgment, to get an order.
I think that the law is actually not swift to the extent it should be, because this is the same country where we operate a Sharia up north. How many individuals has the Sharia law dealt with respect to terrorism? And that's where we also talk about.
Ask yourself, does Sharia law have provisions that allow it step in?
Of course,
to handle
I've made my findings
related.
I've made my findings about Sharia law.
Sure.
And without even taking it too far, it has its own provision. It's what's the word now? It has the aspect that deals with criminal offenses.
Are all criminal offenses terrorism related?
It depends.
No.
But at the same time,
are they all criminal? Are they all terrorism related? If the answer
not
is
all.
No, beautiful. Because there is a parent statute that provides for terrorism, right? And this is irrespective of whether you're also aware that Sharia law is adherent based. In other words, it only applies to those who are practitioners of the Sharia faith. That is basic. It's a ground down for its operation and application. So for Nigeria, the Terrorism Act is sacrosanct, it's spelled out, it's broad-based. Where I think we might want to look at now would be possibly the establishment of special tribunals or special courts to particularly and expeditiously try terrorism, to square in on matters that have to do with these terrorists, bandits, kidnappers. I mean, if we can have a special rents tribunal, if we can have a national industrial court, if we can have a small claims court, why can we not have a court that is specially dedicated to trial of terrorists in such a way that they receive expedited, trial processes? They get sentenced, they get taken out.
Maybe now we're having an argument.
Yeah, let it now be that after the first ruling, they file an appeal, which they are entitled to. I'll give you an instance. Under the fundamental right enforcement procedure, which is, of course, attainable in Nigeria here, it's trite that any matters that appear before the court that are fundamental right based are given accelerated hearing. This is the provision of a certain law. It's an enactment.
Have we been doing that?
Yeah, it
judiciously?
Happens. It happens, even if not judiciously, but at least it happens. I mean, this is one thing that gets pulled out each time you want to file. Many persons will tell you, okay, you want to file this matter, file under FREP. Now, when you file under FREP, you expect that at least there's a first order either given to stop a certain thing from happening. This is an example of how the law can run. You also would bear me witness, Ade, that on electoral matters, there's precedence. On electoral matters, there's that seeming preference that, this matter has to be heard and determined within the next 190 days. And the courts obey. So,
can't we come to a point in this country where, for the purpose of what we are dealing with,
yes,
I've heard you make, some advocacy here that what happens to taking out these people by firing squad when they are caught?
I have said it before, yes.
And I've also listened to people who had backed that same position to say this is meaningful. So we fall back again to our case, 2022 to this very time. That's a lot of years wasted. That's a lot of time for people who would have wanted to live past the pain, still dealing with it. And even at this point, how guarantee is it that what has transpired will give them a closure? Do not forget that some years back, was it up to years now? Yes, there was also another scare concerning the same award. So my belief is that if we should have such issues on our hand, and the government, the judiciary, every institution wants to make it known and clear that, you can absolve them of any blame, there should be some excuses or there should be some other niche carved out to deal with these issues as speedily as they could be treated. That's the only way we can get out of this menace. Because as we speak,
that's exactly the point I was trying
to make. As we speak, international communities, guess what they're saying about this particular judgment?
Sure.
That it's landmark. And I'm saying, oh yes, fine, it's landmark. But for me, it's coming at a very late hour.
And again, can you please take a look at what I try to point out? Criminal matters are not handled willy-nilly. These are matters that have a lot of technicalities around them. It's been said in law that it's best that you have one criminal set free than 100 innocent men jailed. Now, what does that tell you, Ade? There's a process. There's a need to be sure. There's a need to prove beyond every form of doubt. That is why I advocated for a special set of courts to be established to handle this. If we have in Nigeria today a special terrorism court that is voiced only with hearing and adjudication in matters of accusation of terrorism, are they just like you have your radicalization programs? This would also be running. Now, if somebody is found to have been really involved, at least on face value evidence, in issues of terrorism, you're moved to this court, your matter is heard expeditiously. This does not get, are you aware that, hang on a second, that this same judge that heard and sat on this matter would have had many other matters in the docket to be attended to?
Please don't mention radicalization or de-radicalization.
No, I have to mention. No, I have to mention it. You know why?
That one has failed.
No. Listen, Ade. That one has failed. To the extent of its need or reason for establishment, Ade, it's meant to give a straightforward path. I am not talking about the reality. I'm talking about the ideal.
Oh. Okay.
It's meant to give a straightforward path towards helping these persons who have been balkanized mentally by the ideologies find a way out of it. That's what it's meant to be. Now, if we have a court that also helps such persons who have been found to have willfully engaged in acts of terrorism to show them a way out of life if they are found guilty. That in itself will solve a whole lot. That's my point. So if there is need for judicial activism, the answer is yes. Is there